There are places on this planet where the world feels as if it's holding its breath. Places where silence isn't just the absence of sound, but a living presence, stretching across wide horizons that never end. Antarctica has always been a land of mystery, a continent carved by storms, sculpted by time, and guarded by ice older than human memory. Yet beneath its frozen skin lies something even more unsettling: sinkholes, massive, yawning fractures. Openings in the ice that descend into unfathomable darkness. Some appear overnight. Others seem to breathe, widening and tightening like the slow pulse of a sleeping giant. Scientists call them anomalies. Explorers call them warnings. But the deeper you go, the more they resemble entrances to a hidden world waiting in the cold. Before we descend into these frozen caverns, before we step into the dark beneath the ice, make sure you like, share, and subscribe so that this journey into Antarctica's unseen heart reaches those who seek the unknown. The first thing you notice is the stillness. Antarctica's silence is not the simple absence of sound. It is a weight, a pressure, a presence of its own. It settles on your shoulders like frost, tightening with every breath you take. Out here, the world feels paused, as though time itself hesitates before stepping forward. The horizon stretches endlessly, a white desert merging with a pale sky, yet hidden beneath this calm surface lies an ancient restlessness. The ice is shifting. The ground is hollow, and somewhere beneath your boots, an unseen cavern exhales a breath older than civilization. It begins with a faint vibration, the kind that slips through your bones before your ears ever detect it. To most, it would feel like nothing more than a shiver. But to the scientists stationed here, such tremors are warnings. Tremors like these often precede a collapse. They say the ice speaks if you listen long enough. It groans under its own weight, adjusts to temperature changes, and echoes the movement of water flowing far below. When the wind dies, these sounds rise from the depths like whispers. Some explorers describe it as the heartbeat of a continent. Others say it feels like standing on the fragile shell of a sleeping world, hoping it does not wake. And then, without ceremony, the silence breaks. A thunderous crack tears through the plains, spreading faster than a human can run. The surface splinters. The ground drops. And a sinkhole opens where a solid field of ice existed just moments before. These collapses are not small. Some swallow entire research outposts, devouring equipment, shelters, and in rare tragic moments, the people standing too close. Most collapses occur in regions already known for instability, but recently, they've begun appearing in places once believed safe, locations where the ice was thought to be thick, strong, and eternal. As the newly formed sinkhole settles, a plume of frosty mist rises from its depths, drifting up like cold smoke. The edges glow a surreal shade of blue, illuminated by sunlight refracting through layers of compressed ice. No human eye is seeing the space below, yet the view from above already reveals the scale of the hidden chamber. It's vast, too vast for its existence to make sense. Scientists lower instruments. Cameras drift down on trembling cables. And what they find is a cavern large enough to swallow mountains of ice, carved by forces no one fully understands. The walls shimmer with frozen crystals shaped by centuries of pressure. Veins of ancient air run through the ice like trapped memories. In some places, the walls are so clear you can see layers stretching thousands of years into the past, each one marking a moment in Earth's long story. But this is only the beginning. As explorers descend deeper, they find signs that these caverns are not isolated events. Beneath the continent lies an entire network of voids, pockets where the ice has thinned, melted, or collapsed. Some are shaped by meltwater rivers flowing in darkness. Others are formed by geothermal heat rising from the Earth's core. And others still appear with no obvious cause at all, as though the ice simply gave up its fight with time. Every new discovery brings more questions than answers. Why are these collapses becoming more frequent? What hidden forces are carving these massive hollow spaces? And how long has this world existed beneath our feet, unseen and undisturbed? Standing at the rim of a sinkhole, you feel the enormity of what lies below. The air drifting up is colder than the surface wind, carrying a strange metallic scent, the smell of untouched ice breaking for the first time in millennia. The cavern breathes, the way deep caves often do, exhaling as pressure equalizes. Some explorers claim to hear faint echoes rising from the depths, like distant water moving or ice shifting slowly in the dark. Others swear they hear something else entirely, something they can't describe, something that feels alive. Down here, a single misstep changes everything. The ice is unpredictable, brittle in some places and dangerously thin in others. You move slowly. You test every foothold. And with each step, the cavern reveals a little more of itself. The glistening arches overhead, the smooth slopes leading even deeper, the fragile formations that crumble into powder at the slightest touch. This subterranean world is beautiful, yes, but also unforgiving. It is a reminder that Antarctica is not the empty, lifeless desert many imagine. It is a landscape in motion, breathing, shifting, reshaping itself from below. And as you stand inside this giant wound in the earth, you realize something unsettling. This collapse is only one of many. A single doorway into a labyrinth far greater than anyone expected. The deeper you go, the more the world above begins to fade. Light from the surface grows thin, filtering through layers of ancient ice until it becomes nothing more than a pale blue glow clinging weakly to the walls. Every sound you make, every crunch of your boots, every drip of condensed water, every quiet breath fogging inside your mask, echoes softly through the chamber as if the cavern itself is listening. Down here, sound does not travel far. It is swallowed quickly, absorbed by ice that has held its silence for thousands of years. You begin to move more carefully, aware that even the softest vibration can trigger a shift in fragile formations above. And yet, despite the tension in your steps, there's an undeniable pull drawing you deeper into this frozen cathedral. As your eyes adjust, new details emerge from the dim glow. The walls are not smooth as expected. They ripple with patterns, each layer telling a silent story of storms long gone. Frozen bubbles hold air last breathed by ancient forests. Thin bands of dark sediment mark the passing of volcanic eruptions on continents far away. It feels as though you're walking through time itself, each step carrying you further into Earth's memory. Scientists studying these patterns often say that Antarctica is a library, and the ice is its pages. But this cavern is something else entirely. It is not a neatly stacked archive. It is a chapter ripped open, exposed unexpectedly, revealing secrets too unstable to reveal for long. You reach a ledge overlooking what appears to be a subglacial river, except it isn't a river in the usual sense. It is a narrow channel of meltwater, trapped beneath layers of ice, flowing slowly like liquid glass. The water moves so quietly that the only indication of its motion is a subtle shimmer beneath the surface. This hidden river is what hollowed part of the cavern. Its path winds deeper than your lights can reach, disappearing into darkness, hinting at a vast network stretching beneath the continent. Researchers have long suspected these rivers exist. They feed subglacial lakes far below. They carve tunnels. They transport sediments. But seeing one up close, untouched, uncharted, undisturbed, feels like an invitation into a world very few humans will ever witness. A faint vibration suddenly rises from beneath the riverbed. At first, you mistake it for distant water movement, but the tremor has a rhythm to it, a slow, pulsing thud, as though something deep within the earth is stirring. You place a hand on the ice wall, and the vibration becomes clearer. It is not mechanical. It is not wind. It is the movement of the continent itself. Ice sheets shifting, adjusting, settling under unimaginable pressure. but the rhythm feels almost deliberate, like the breathing of a colossal creature sleeping beneath the frozen crust. You remind yourself it's only geology, but down here, logic feels fragile. The mind wanders. Shadows seem to move. The silence feels aware. You follow the river's edge until it widens into a basin. Here, the cavern expands again, not with the violent collapse seen at the surface, but in a graceful, rounded shape carved by centuries of patient erosion. The ceiling rises high above, a sweeping dome filled with hanging icicles long enough to pierce stone. Some resemble frozen chandeliers, glittering faintly where your light catches them. Others are fused together, forming crystal pillars that stretch from floor to ceiling, as though holding the cavern in place. This place feels less like an accident of nature and more like an ancient hall shaped by unseen hands. Your breath trembles slightly at the sight. Beauty here is overwhelming, but beauty in places like this is always paired with danger. Every icicle is a dagger, waiting for a vibration strong enough to send it crashing down. Every smooth slope could conceal a void beneath its thin crust. The basin floor itself slopes sharply toward a second opening, a narrow throat descending deeper into the earth, colder and darker than anything above. A chilled draft rises from it, brushing your face with the unmistakable touch of air untouched by sunlight for millennia. It carries a scent like old metal mixed with ancient minerals, something sterile yet strangely alive. You kneel and shine your light into the narrow descent, but it reveals nothing except a twisting tunnel of blue shadows. Yet you feel a pull. Not curiosity, not fear, but something heavier. A sense that whatever lies below is part of a larger truth, one Antarctica has guarded since long before human history began. You realize, with a quiet shiver, that the cavern above is not the final destination. It is only the threshold. And every instinct tells you that once you cross it, the world you return to, if you return at all, will not look the same. The tunnel yawns before you like the throat of some forgotten beast. Narrow at first, forcing careful steps, but gradually widening into a gallery of ice unlike anything seen on the surface. The walls here are smooth, polished by water that once surged through these veins in ages past. Light from your helmet casts ghostly reflections that dance across the frozen surface, turning the cavern into a cathedral of shifting shadows. Every movement seems amplified, every whisper echoing like a chant, as if the earth itself is reciting a secret it has guarded for eons. The air is thick and heavy, carrying the weight of millennia. Even breathing feels like a violation, disturbing a stillness that has persisted far longer than human memory. As you descend, you notice strange formations along the walls, twisted ribbons of ice threaded with dark mineral veins, some glittering with crystalline deposits, others smooth and slick with frozen moisture. They twist and spiral in ways that defy immediate logic, like natural art molded by forces beyond comprehension. The walls hum faintly, an almost imperceptible vibration that grows stronger as you move deeper. Scientists call it the pulse of the ice, subtle movements caused by pressure gradients and hidden geothermal warmth, but it feels alive, deliberate, as if the cavern is aware of your presence. Each step feels like crossing a boundary between the world above and a place untouched by sunlight or time. The floor slopes downward gently, leading to a basin where the ice gives way to water, dark and still, a mirror reflecting the overhead cathedral of icicles and frozen stalactites. This subterranean lake is fed by hidden meltwater channels, some warm from geothermal vents below, others cold as if drawn from the ancient glaciers themselves. Droplets fall from the ceiling in random rhythms, plinking softly against the icy surface, creating concentric ripples that vanish into the black depths. The stillness is hypnotic, almost meditative, yet beneath it lies a latent tension. One false move here could send a cascade of ice crashing into the water, shattering the fragile peace of this hidden world. And then, without warning, the air shifts. A gentle draft rises from the lake's surface, carrying a scent strange and metallic, like iron long submerged in frozen currents. It brushes against your face and throat, subtle but unmistakable, a whisper from a time long before human presence. The pulse in the walls grows slightly stronger, more insistent. You realize the cavern is not static. It moves, shifts, adjusts, as if responding to the intrusion of the living. The ice is alive in its own way, not breathing like a mammal, but expanding, contracting, and settling under pressures that defy comprehension. You shine your light across the lake and notice movement. Faint, almost imperceptible ripples that do not coincide with the droplets falling from above. Something stirs beneath the surface. Not a wave, not a current, but deliberate undulations, like something large and patient moving in silence. Your mind searches for explanation. Sediment settling, trapped gas escaping, reflections from the ice above. Yet instinct tells you that this is something else, something ancient and hidden, and that your presence is acknowledged by the quiet consciousness of this frozen underworld. The cavern opens further ahead, narrowing into a second passage that descends even deeper. The walls here are more fractured, adorned with veins of iridescent ice that shimmer with colors impossible to name. Tiny fissures exhale faint clouds of moisture, creating halos around the helmet lights. The soundscape changes as well. Echoes lengthen and multiply, bouncing off distant walls to create the illusion of movement where there is none. Every footstep is magnified, every whisper answered by the cavern itself. You begin to understand why so many who enter these spaces describe a feeling of reverence, of humility, standing in a place older and larger than the world itself. A sudden creak of ice reminds you of the danger here. This is not a stable floor, not a solid roof. Every tremor from above, every shift below, could reshape this hidden chamber in an instant. And yet, despite the peril, you are compelled forward. The pull is irresistible, a combination of curiosity and awe, as though the sinkhole is calling you deeper, urging you to witness what has never been seen. The temperature drops steadily, fingers of cold crawling along the neck and wrists, while the faint pulse of the ice beneath your feet quickens ever so slightly. Here, in this suspended space between the frozen surface above and the abyss below, you feel both infinitesimal and eternal. A human presence is fleeting, transient, yet the ice endures, vast and patient. Every sight, every sound, every subtle vibration reinforces the truth. Antarctica is not a blank continent. It is a living archive, a labyrinth, a cathedral, and the sinkhole is its mouth, opening to reveal stories written in ice, water, and pressure, stories that predate humanity and will likely endure long after it is gone. The passage narrows into shadow, and just beyond it, you sense the next chamber, one larger, darker, and more mysterious than anything encountered so far. A place that promises revelation and perhaps danger, lurking beneath the ancient ice. The tunnel narrows sharply before opening again, as if the cavern itself is testing your resolve. Light from above has almost vanished entirely, leaving only the pale glow of helmet beams dancing across walls streaked with ice and mineral veins. Here, the air grows heavier with each step, thick with moisture and the faint metallic scent of ancient water. Every breath feels deliberate, every movement amplified by the vast emptiness around you. It is impossible not to feel dwarfed, not just by the cavern, but by the weight of time itself. You are walking through a world untouched for millennia, a subterranean Antarctica that has existed long before humans set foot on its frozen surface and will continue to exist long after we are gone. The walls curve in unexpected ways, spiraling downward like frozen vortices, and the floor slopes unevenly toward a dark, liquid abyss. This chamber is larger than any previously encountered, a hidden cathedral shaped by ice, meltwater, and pressure beyond comprehension. Water from the subglacial rivers flows quietly here, pooling into small basins and dripping from ceilings in rhythmic patterns. The sound is hypnotic, a subtle percussion that underscores the vastness, broken only by occasional creaks and groans of settling ice. The cavern feels alive in its own right, not animated by consciousness, but by the slow, patient movements of a world under constant strain. Shining your light across the basin, you notice suspended particles drifting in the water like stars frozen in a liquid galaxy. Some shimmer faintly with iridescent colors, hinting at minerals and microbial life thriving in complete isolation. Sensors dropped carefully into the pool measure unexpected warmth and chemical composition, challenging prior assumptions about subglacial waters. The hidden currents are slow yet persistent, carving channels through layers of ice and rock as they have for thousands of years. This is no mere hole in the ice. It is a living system, a hidden ecosystem shaped by heat, pressure, and the unseen rhythms of the planet. A faint vibration grows beneath your boots, subtle at first, then more insistent. It is not uniform, not mechanical. It pulses with the irregularity of life, or at least something that mimics its cadence. You glance at the other explorers, their eyes wide, hands tightening around ropes and poles. Even the most seasoned scientists feel it, a sensation that this cavern is aware of your intrusion, acknowledging your presence in ways that defy conventional logic. Some whisper theories. Geothermal shifts, ice settling after centuries of pressure, subglacial currents carving new paths. But instinct tells you there is something more, something that refuses to be measured or categorized. The ceiling arches impossibly high, adorned with crystalline structures resembling stalactites, their tips catching the faint glow of your lights and fracturing it into shards of color. Some hang in clusters so dense they appear like frozen chandeliers. Others taper into fine needles that could pierce the skin if disturbed. Every step forward is a negotiation between awe and caution. A misstep could send a cascade of ice crashing into the dark waters below. And yet, the pull to explore further is irresistible. The abyss beckons, promising revelations beyond imagination. Toward the far end of the chamber, the floor slopes gently into a narrow descent, a throat that disappears into darkness deeper than the mind can easily fathom. The faint currents from the subglacial river gather here, creating ripples that travel silently under the ice. You shine your light into the opening, but the beam is swallowed almost immediately. The temperature drops again, colder than anything experienced in the upper tunnels, as if the void itself draws warmth from the air. Each breath crystallizes briefly, tiny clouds floating and vanishing in seconds. The walls hum faintly here, vibrations resonating through the boots, the rope, and even the chest. It is subtle, yet unmistakable, the voice of the ice itself. A single drop of water falls from the ceiling and splashes into the pool below. The echo rings endlessly, a haunting reminder that sound behaves differently in these spaces. Time seems to stretch. Minutes feel like hours. You realize that everything you have known about scale, distance, and perception is unreliable in this subterranean world. The ice has its own rules, its own geometry, its own sense of permanence that humans can barely comprehend. Standing at the threshold of the descent, you understand that the next step will lead you into a world that is at once alien, beautiful, and dangerous beyond measure. You pause, taking in the enormity of the chamber, the hypnotic movements of water, the whispering vibrations, and the towering walls that have endured millennia. There is no turning back. The sinkhole has already claimed your attention, and the pull toward its hidden depths is irresistible. One last breath, one final check of equipment, and you prepare to move into the narrow, cold throat that promises both discovery and danger in equal measure. The narrow throat swallows you immediately, forcing careful, deliberate movements. Light from above is now a memory, a pale halo fading into the distance. The walls close in, icy and slick, and every step echoes faintly against surfaces that have never felt human weight. The air is heavier here, dense with moisture and the cold, metallic tang of ancient ice. Your gloves stiffen, breath fogs, and yet every nerve hums with anticipation. You know that the deeper you go, the further you leave the world you understand behind. This is a place untouched by sun, by wind, by the seasons that dictate life on the surface. Down here, time is a stranger, and permanence is measured in ice, water, and pressure, stretching back thousands of years. The walls themselves seem to guide you. Veins of blue and silver spiral downward, forming natural channels that hint at the path of subglacial rivers. Tiny fissures exhale clouds of frozen moisture, each one catching your light and refracting it into a subtle, haunting spectrum. The cavern seems alive in a way that is not threatening, but undeniable. A quiet, patient consciousness shaped by millennia. Your heartbeat synchronizes with the rhythm of the descent, each step a conversation with a world older than memory. Occasionally, a faint tremor passes through the floor, subtle enough to be ignored, yet impossible not to feel. Ice shifts here in slow, deliberate pulses, and you sense that even a misstep could ripple outward, altering the shape of the hidden world. Halfway through the descent, the passage opens into a hollow chamber unlike anything previously seen. The ceiling arch is impossibly high, adorned with intricate ice formations that resemble frozen chandeliers, some clustered so densely they seem almost organic. Stalactites stretch downward like teeth, and the crystalline walls refract the soft glow of your lights into prismatic patterns that ripple across the chamber floor. The air is colder still, and tiny droplets from above land with quiet plinks, disturbing the surface of hidden pools that mirror the ceiling in perfect clarity. You move carefully across the floor, aware that each step might trigger hidden instability, yet compelled to continue deeper into the heart of the cavern. The hidden pools themselves are astonishing. Water moves silently beneath thin layers of ice, currents unseen but sensed in subtle vibrations along the floor. Tiny particles drift like suspended stars, glowing faintly with the bioluminescence of microbial life that has existed without light for millennia. Scientists on the expedition study the pools with reverent focus, aware that these waters may hold the key to understanding life under extreme conditions, ecosystems that have persisted in isolation for epochs. But even as you observe, the cavern asserts its dominance. A low, resonant hum rises from the depths, vibrating through the boots and harnesses, a reminder that this place is alive, patient, and far beyond human control. At the far end of the chamber, a second throat appears, even narrower, leading further downward into darkness untouched by light or equipment. The air grows colder still, a frozen breath that seems to suck warmth from the body. Tiny particles of ice drift like snowflakes in suspended motion, shimmering in the helmet light before disappearing into the black below. Every instinct warns caution, yet the pull forward is irresistible. This narrow descent is a gateway, a threshold into the abyssal heart of the sinkhole. Beyond it lies the unknown, a realm of pressure, darkness, and frozen waters that have never known sunlight. You pause at the threshold, taking in the enormity of what has been revealed. Above, the surface is a distant memory. Around you, the cavern stretches, vast and silent, shaped by forces invisible and immense. Every step into the throat is a step deeper into a hidden Antarctica, a continent layered with mystery, danger, and beauty. It is a place that defies description, where humans are small, temporary, yet undeniably present. The ice, water, and darkness are patient witnesses, shaping your passage, guiding your descent. And as you step forward into the narrowing, the cavern seems to exhale, a slow, deliberate sigh that resonates through every bone. The pull of the depths is stronger now, calling you to the next chapter of discovery. What lies below is uncertain, immense, and awe-inspiring. But one thing is certain. Antarctica has revealed a hidden world, and your journey has only just begun. Descending deeper into the sinkhole, the world above fades into memory, leaving only the labyrinthine expanse of ice and shadow. The walls close and open in unpredictable patterns, twisting like frozen rivers caught mid-flow. Corridors branching unexpectedly into narrow passages or vast halls carved by ancient meltwater. Each step is measured, deliberate, every footfall magnified against the hollow walls. The labyrinth does not rush. It does not guide, it waits. And as you move further in, you begin to sense the scale of what you have entered. A network so vast it could contain entire cities of ice, stretching beneath Antarctica like the veins of a sleeping giant. The air grows colder, heavier, and strangely sweet, carrying the scent of mineral-rich waters and the subtle tang of frozen life preserved for millennia. Your light flickers across walls that shimmer in hues of deep blue, silver, and crystal white, revealing details that defy immediate comprehension. Striations in the ice curve and unnatural spirals, evidence of pressures unimaginable and forces ancient beyond measure. Some channels are smooth as polished glass, worn over countless centuries by currents of meltwater, while others jag in sharp angles, fracturing like frozen lightning, threatening to collapse with the slightest vibration. The labyrinth is alive with motion too slow for the eye to detect. Subtle shifts in the walls, faint groans that echo without origin, a pulse that seems almost conscious. Every explorer feels it, whether admitting it aloud or not. The ice watches, waits, and responds. Following a narrow corridor, the team comes to a vast cavern chamber, its ceiling disappearing into shadows above. Stalactites of ice hang like delicate daggers, some fused together into towering crystal pillars that seem impossibly fragile, yet withstand the immense weight pressing down from above. Tiny fissures exhale clouds of frost that drift lazily through the air, catching your light and refracting it into fleeting rainbows. The floor is uneven, slick with frozen meltwater, yet gently slopes into channels that disappear into darkness below. These are not random formations. Every curve, every hollow, every tunnel seems deliberate, carved by hidden forces over thousands, perhaps millions of years. The deeper you move, the colder the air becomes, until even insulated layers of clothing struggle to retain warmth. Breaths crystallize instantly, drifting as faint clouds that vanish within seconds. The silence is absolute, yet broken by subtle sounds. The slow drip of water from above, the hum of ice shifting in the distance, and, occasionally, the distant roar of underground currents carving paths through rock and ice. These noises are reminders that you are not merely walking through emptiness. You are traversing a living system, one in which pressure, temperature, and water have conspired over epochs to form a labyrinth that humans were never meant to see. Halfway through the first chamber, the path narrows again into a winding passage, barely wide enough for a single person. Light seems to struggle here, diffusing into the ice walls in faint blue glows that make it difficult to discern depth and distance. Shadows stretch unnaturally, giving the impression that the walls themselves move, creeping closer with every step. The explorers pause, testing each foothold, careful to avoid fragile layers of frozen sediment that could fracture under pressure. Every sound is amplified. Every vibration becomes a warning. The labyrinth is patient, but it is not forgiving. You catch glimpses of frozen formations unlike anything on the surface. Veins of dark sediment run through the walls, streaked with minerals that glint faintly in the light. Tiny pockets of water are suspended beneath thin sheets of ice, shimmering as if holding trapped stars. Occasionally, the explorers point out faint bubbles, some holding air, some seemingly containing life, frozen mid-motion, captured in the ice long before human history began. There is a sense that this labyrinth preserves not just the geography of the continent, but fragments of time itself, sealed beneath kilometers of frozen crust. A sudden draft rises through the passage, carrying a faint warmth and an almost metallic scent. It brushes your face and throat, subtle yet undeniable, as if the labyrinth is exhaling. The pulse beneath your boots quickens slightly, responding to the air's movement, the presence of life, or perhaps the subtle tremors transmitted from the ice above. Every step forward is a negotiation between awe and caution. The labyrinth tempts you, teasing you with glimpses of vast chambers yet unseen, but it demands respect. One misstep could trigger a collapse, erasing millennia of hidden architecture in an instant. And yet, the pull forward is irresistible. As the narrow passage begins to widen into another cavern, the explorers sense the scale of what lies ahead. The walls curve in spirals so precise they could be mistaken for deliberate carving. The floor smooth in places, jagged in others. This is a world shaped by forces invisible and immense, where water, ice, and pressure have collaborated to create an environment both fragile and eternal. You realize, with quiet reverence, that the glacial labyrinth is not merely a collection of tunnels. It is a living archive, a record of the continent's hidden heartbeat, waiting to reveal its secrets to those daring enough to follow its winding paths. The cavern ahead opens gradually, revealing a vast hall that seems impossibly high, its ceiling vanishing into darkness that even your strongest lights cannot pierce. The walls are sculpted in sweeping arcs, some polished by the slow passage of water, others jagged with fractured ice that gleams faintly like glass under your beam. Tiny streams of meltwater cascade along the slopes, tracing channels worn over countless centuries, while minute particles drift suspended, catching the light and creating illusions of floating stars in the frozen gloom. The scale of the space is disorienting. Every step echoes endlessly, and each sound folds back upon itself, creating a rhythm that pulses like the heartbeat of the continent itself. The temperature here drops further, colder than anything experienced at the surface, yet faint currents of warmer air hint at geothermal activity somewhere deep below. Every breath crystallizes instantly, forming delicate clouds that drift and vanish, painting the chamber in pale, fleeting patterns. The explorers move with careful precision, aware that the floor, though appearing solid, conceals hidden pockets of weakness. A single misstep could trigger a collapse, sending shards of ice and snow into the dark channels below. But despite the danger, every person feels a quiet compulsion to see, to understand, to trace the paths carved by forces far older than human memory. Faint vibrations resonate through the ice beneath your feet. They are irregular, subtle, almost alive, a reminder that the labyrinth is not static. The walls flex, shift, and groan imperceptibly, adjusting to the weight of the ice above, the slow flow of water, and the pressures exerted over millennia. It is easy to imagine that the ice senses your presence, acknowledging it in a rhythm too slow for the human mind to fully comprehend. There is a strange intimacy in the realization that you are intruding upon a world that has existed perfectly, silently, long before anyone dared to descend into it. The hall narrows once more, twisting into a series of tunnels that spiral downwards like the threads of a massive frozen spindle. Here, the ice is darker, denser, veins of minerals embedded in the walls catching the faintest flicker of light. Some explorers pause to examine them, noting subtle patterns that suggest past volcanic activity, or perhaps chemical reactions from water trapped deep in the crust. Others simply stare at the walls, awestruck, tracing the smooth curves of formations that look almost organic, like the bones of ancient creatures preserved in frost. Every step deeper brings the sense that you are not just exploring a labyrinth. You are following the slow, deliberate movements of a continent alive in ways the surface can never reveal. The air carries a faint hum, almost imperceptible, that seems to rise from the tunnels themselves. It is not wind. It is not water. It is a vibration, subtle and continuous, threading through the walls and floor, resonating in the bones. Some describe it as the pulse of Antarctica, a slow, patient beat that underscores every sound, every movement, every breath. It reminds you that this labyrinth is not merely a space. It is an archive, a living record of millennia compressed into ice and stone. Here, time behaves differently. Moments stretch, echoes linger, and shadows twist into impossible shapes, challenging perception itself. A subglacial stream crosses your path, hidden beneath a thin layer of ice. Your foot cracks it lightly, revealing water flowing silently below. Sensors confirm that it is liquid, despite the freezing temperatures above, fed by geothermal heat and trapped pressure. The currents are steady, patient, cutting channels through the rock and ice in ways invisible from above. These hidden rivers are the architects of the labyrinth, carving tunnels, creating chambers, shaping the course of water and ice alike. Without them, this cavernous maze would not exist. Yet their movement is subtle, patient, imperceptible to the casual observer. Toward the far end of the spiraling tunnels, a narrow opening suggests a deeper chamber. The faint warmth of geothermal influence drifts from it, carrying a smell that is metallic and earthy, ancient and elemental. The pulse in the ice beneath grows more pronounced, harmonizing with the gentle current of the underground river. It is a reminder that the labyrinth is not merely a frozen ruin. It is a dynamic, breathing system, a hidden world in constant motion, alive in its own right. Every step toward this opening feels like crossing a threshold into a place even older, colder, and more mysterious than anything already witnessed. And as you step forward into the narrowing tunnel, the labyrinth tightens around you, insulating you from the world above. The air becomes still, the light dimmer, and the silence heavier. Every instinct tells you that the next chamber will reveal something extraordinary, a revelation born of ice, pressure, and the patience of millennia. A place that no human eye has ever seen. A frozen cathedral waiting for discovery in the heart of Antarctica. The tunnel opens once more into a cavern that feels impossibly vast, a hollow space that seems to stretch beyond the reach of light itself. The walls here are polished smooth in places, jagged and fractured in others, with ice layers so thick that they swallow sound, softening each step until your movements feel like whispers in a cathedral of frost. Pale blue glows emanate from deep within the ice, refracted and fractured into dancing patterns on the walls. Shadows move strangely here, shifting and twisting as if the cavern itself breathes. Every glance reveals shapes that are both familiar and alien. Frozen arches resembling ancient ribs, jagged pillars rising like obelisks, and veins of ice threaded with dark minerals that shimmer faintly under the explorer's lights. Water flows quietly through the chamber, hidden beneath thin layers of ice, tracing secret channels carved over millennia. The currents are invisible, yet perceptible, felt in subtle shifts beneath your boots, a vibration running through the cavern floor. These are not simple streams. They are the sculptors of the labyrinth, carving tunnels and shaping chambers in ways almost imperceptible to the surface world. You pause to observe, noting how the water interacts with the ice, how it pools and flows, sometimes creating mirrored surfaces that reflect the crystalline ceiling above, giving the illusion of infinite vertical space. It is a frozen hall of mirrors, both mesmerizing and disorienting, challenging your sense of scale and depth. A faint hum rises from the depths, resonating through the ice and subtly vibrating through your body. It is not constant nor uniform, but irregular, pulsing with a rhythm that is almost musical in nature. Scientists speculate that it is caused by the slow movement of the glaciers above, or perhaps the pressure of subglacial currents shifting beneath the floor. But here, in the cavern, it feels alive. It seems to acknowledge your presence, responding in gentle waves as you move, a subtle conversation between human and ice. Some explorers pause in awe, placing hands against the walls to feel the pulse more directly. The sensation is both humbling and unnerving, a reminder that the labyrinth is vast, ancient, and indifferent to human ambition. The ceiling stretches impossibly high, adorned with stalactites of ice that taper to impossibly fine points, some fused together into crystalline formations that resemble chandeliers frozen in motion. Small droplets fall rhythmically from above, striking the icy floor or pooling into hidden basins. The sound is soft, delicate, yet amplified by the cavern's enormity, echoing endlessly and creating a haunting musical cadence. Tiny pockets of air trapped in the ice refract light, giving the impression of suspended stars, glittering faintly in patterns that are almost too orderly to be random. Each step forward reveals more of this frozen architecture, each turn in the labyrinth unveiling chambers more intricate and awe-inspiring than the last. Despite the beauty, danger lurks everywhere. The ice is patient, but not forgiving. Fractures spiderweb across the walls, thin and brittle in places, ready to collapse under weight or vibration. Hidden gaps in the floor can open without warning, exposing voids hundreds of feet deep. And yet, despite the threat, the pull to explore deeper is irresistible. Curiosity and awe override fear, compelling you forward into the heart of the labyrinth. Each passage you navigate, each chamber you enter, confirms that Antarctica is not merely a frozen desert, but a living, breathing archive of the Earth's history, preserved in ice and sculpted by forces beyond comprehension. Toward the far end of the cavern, a narrow descent beckons. The air here carries a faint warmth, a hint of geothermal activity far below, mixed with the metallic scent of minerals long trapped beneath the ice. A current of cold, heavy air rises from the narrowing tunnel, carrying droplets of water and tiny shards of ice, swirling like the breath of the labyrinth itself. You feel a quiet trepidation, knowing that each step downward brings you closer to the core of this hidden world, a place where time, ice, and water converge to create a domain entirely unseen by human eyes. The pull of the unknown is irresistible, compelling you to move forward, to follow the labyrinth's winding path, and to uncover the secrets it has guarded for millennia. And as you step into the narrowing tunnel, leaving behind the vast cathedral of ice, you realize that this descent is not merely physical. It is a journey into the frozen memory of the Earth itself, a step closer to understanding a continent whose true nature has remained hidden from the world above. The labyrinth stretches on, endless and patient, inviting you to explore, to witness, and to remember that Antarctica's heart beats far deeper than anyone could have imagined. The narrowing tunnel descends with a gentle, almost imperceptible slope, drawing you deeper into the labyrinth's heart. Here, the walls are denser, darker, and almost opaque in places, as if the ice itself has absorbed centuries of pressure and frozen time. The faint glimmers from mineral veins and trapped air pockets illuminate fleeting glimpses of shapes that seem alive, yet impossible to touch. Every sound is amplified, echoing endlessly along the cavern walls, creating the illusion of multiple explorers moving just out of sight. The silence is deceptive. It hums with history, a subtle vibration that runs through the ice and resonates in every bone, every nerve. Antarctica is patient, yes, but it is also insistent, urging you forward while demanding respect. Small streams of water break through the frozen floor, dripping from unseen ceilings above, their rhythmic plinks forming a delicate percussion against the cavern's deep stillness. The water is dark and clear, seemingly untouched, and it reflects your light like liquid glass, creating shifting patterns of color and shadow that dance along the walls. Tiny bubbles are trapped within, frozen mid-ascent, preserving the last breaths of time itself. These hidden rivers and pools are the architects of the labyrinth, carving paths, hollowing chambers, and maintaining a delicate balance between stability and collapse. Every step across the frozen floor is a negotiation with forces that have shaped this subterranean world for millennia. A faint hum begins to rise from deeper within, irregular but persistent, like a heartbeat that refuses to be ignored. Scientists speculate it is the movement of the ice above, settling under immense weight, or subglacial currents adjusting their paths. But here, in the labyrinth, it feels alive. It responds to your movement, your presence, a subtle acknowledgement from the continent itself. There is a quiet awe in understanding that you are not merely passing through. You are part of the Caverns story now, your presence a brief disturbance in a system that has existed far longer than human memory. The labyrinth is both indifferent and intimate, vast yet precise in its rhythm. The walls twist unexpectedly, guiding the explorers into a chamber even larger than the last. This space feels more ancient, more deliberate, as if the ice and water have collaborated to create an architectural marvel of natural engineering. Columns of ice rise from floor to ceiling, jagged and perfect, some fused together into towering crystalline structures. Veins of dark minerals run through them, glinting faintly under your light. The ceiling arches impossibly high, forming concave domes that trap echoes and multiply them, turning every movement into a haunting symphony of sound. The frozen landscape is mesmerizing, overwhelming, and terrifying in its scale. Hidden beneath a thin layer of ice, a subglacial stream flows silently, shaping the cavern in ways imperceptible from the surface. Its currents carry sediments, minerals, and perhaps life forms isolated for millennia. Sensors reveal that the water is warmer than expected, hinting at geothermal influences from deep within the Earth's crust. The pulse of the cavern grows stronger here, almost tactile, vibrating beneath your boots as if guiding you toward the labyrinth's core. Every instinct warns caution, yet every fiber of curiosity urges forward, deeper into the frozen memory of the planet. The air is colder still, crisp and almost metallic, carrying tiny shards of ice that swirl in the gentle drafts rising from unseen chambers below. Each inhalation sharpens the senses, making every sound, every shimmer, every vibration feel heightened. You realize that the labyrinth is not merely a network of tunnels, but a living archive, preserving moments of geological history, pockets of ancient water, and the silent echoes of ice that have formed over thousands of years. And as the path narrows toward the next chamber, you sense that the journey is far from over. The labyrinth still has its secrets, waiting patiently for those willing to explore, to witness, and to endure. Every step into the narrowing corridor feels like crossing a threshold, deeper into a world untouched by human history, shaped by forces beyond comprehension, and waiting to reveal its ultimate truths. The glacial labyrinth continues infinite and patient, a testament to the enduring heartbeat of Antarctica itself. The corridor finally opens into a chamber so vast that your lights barely penetrate its expanse. The ceiling rises far above, lost in shadows that shimmer with faint reflections from the icy walls. Stalactites hang like frozen chandeliers, their tips catching every flicker of light and scattering it into spectral patterns across the floor. Columns of ice rise from the ground, jagged yet elegant, some fused into crystalline towers that stretch toward the unseen ceiling. Tiny fissures in the walls exhale faint mists, drifting lazily through the chamber, catching the light and creating halos that seem almost supernatural. The air is heavier here, dense with the cold tang of mineral-rich water and the faint scent of ancient ice, carrying a weight that presses softly against the chest. You pause to take it in, realizing that the labyrinth has reached a scale that feels impossible. The walls, the pillars, the streams, every element is in constant, imperceptible motion, responding to pressures, currents, and geological shifts that have shaped the continent over millennia. The chamber hums with subtle vibrations, almost like a heartbeat. It is neither threatening nor benign, but insistent, a reminder that the world you are traversing is alive in ways that human senses can barely comprehend. Every step taken here feels momentous. Each movement, a negotiation with forces far older, larger, and more patient than humanity itself. Beneath your boots, the ice is uneven, dotted with hidden streams that flow silently under thin frozen layers. Occasionally, a trap bubble or shard rises to the surface as your weight presses down, creating tiny, fleeting disruptions in this delicate balance. The water, dark and clear, carries the memory of millennia, holding particles and traces of life forms that have existed in isolation for thousands of years. It moves patiently, carving channels, sculpting walls, and maintaining the hidden equilibrium of the labyrinth. To touch, it is to touch a fragment of a world older than human history, an echo of the continent's hidden heartbeat. A faint warmth rises from deeper within the chamber, a reminder that geothermal forces stir beneath the ice. The pulse beneath your feet quickens slightly, in sync with the subtle vibration of the walls, a rhythm that is impossible to ignore. It is as though the labyrinth is responding to your presence, acknowledging your intrusion with a quiet but unmistakable awareness. The explorers exchange glances, silently agreeing that this is more than mere exploration. This is communion with a hidden world, a journey into a living archive that has existed perfectly and silently for millennia. The path ahead narrows into a steep, twisting descent. Faint currents of air rise from below, carrying moisture and tiny shards of ice, swirling in gentle eddies. Light catches them for a fleeting instant, revealing glittering particles suspended like stars in a frozen cosmos. The ice walls curve and spiral downward, guiding the explorers with invisible precision toward the next chamber. Every sense is heightened, the hum of the ice, the subtle movements beneath the feet, the cold pressing in from all sides, and the faint glimmer of water far below. It is impossible not to feel awe, or not to feel the pull of something ancient, patient, and immense waiting just beyond the next turn. As you approach the descent, you understand the labyrinth is both a test and a revelation. It demands respect, patience, and humility. One misstep could erase centuries of delicate formations, yet every careful movement brings insight. Every observation uncovers fragments of Antarctica's hidden memory. The ice preserves, protects, and reveals, guiding those who ventured deep into its heart through chambers shaped by forces beyond comprehension. And as the explorers step into the narrowing passage, leaving behind the vast hall of frozen spires and shimmering streams, they know that the glacial labyrinth has only begun to show its secrets. Its heart is still deeper, darker, and more mysterious than anything seen so far. The journey continues, deeper into Antarctica's hidden world, into the frozen memory of a continent that has endured for millennia and will endure long after all who traverse its labyrinth have returned to the surface. Beyond the twisting corridors of the glacial labyrinth, a faint, cavernous roar begins to reach your ears. The subtle, distant sound of water moving under immense pressure, hidden beneath layers of ice. The air grows denser and colder as the explorers descend further, each step echoing through chambers that stretch far beyond the limits of sight. The walls here are darker, polished by centuries of meltwater and mineral deposits, reflecting your light in muted, ghostly glimmers. Shadows curve and bend in impossible ways, creating illusions of hidden passages that vanish when approached. Every sense is heightened. Even the slightest vibration or distant hum resonates through your chest, a reminder that you are venturing into the Earth's secret veins. The passage slopes sharply downward, leading to a basin where frozen ice gives way to pools of dark, still water. Here, the subglacial currents are palpable, flowing silently beneath thin layers of ice, creating subtle ripples that distort reflections and cast fractured patterns across the walls. Small bubbles rise slowly, suspended like frozen time capsules, some holding microscopic life forms isolated from the surface world for millennia. The explorers move cautiously, aware that each step must be deliberate. The ice above groans faintly, shifting imperceptibly under the weight of the frozen continent, a gentle reminder that even this hidden world is alive with movement, patience, and power. Shining your light across the abyss, you notice faint forms beneath the water's surface, shadows that flicker and vanish before they can be fully understood. Are they reflections, mineral distortions, or living creatures adapted to the pitch-black environment? Every ripple suggests motion. Every pulse in the ice hints at the presence of hidden energy. The floor slopes gently downward, drawing you closer to the abyss's heart, where geothermal warmth meets frozen silence. A faint metallic scent rises from the water, mingling with the cold air to create a sensation that is both alien and electric. Each inhalation is sharp, crisp, and invigorating, forcing your senses to sharpen as though the very cavern demands your attention. The walls curve upward into impossible arches, some adorned with stalactites of ice, others jagged and fractured, forming natural bridges that span the abyss. Tiny rivulets drip from the ceiling, plinking against the dark water below, each echo stretching and fading across the chamber in irregular patterns. You realize that this is no ordinary cavern. It is a subglacial cathedral, a space shaped by eons of ice flow, pressure, and water. Every formation tells a story, of glaciers that advanced and retreated, of hidden rivers carving channels in silence, and of forces so immense that human comprehension falters at the sight of them. The explorers pause at the edge of the first descent into the abyss. The dark water stretches far below, swallowing light and reflecting only faint glimmers from above. Faint ripples suggest currents moving with deliberate intent, carrying particles and perhaps life forms hidden from the surface. Sensors measure the warmth of deep geothermal vents and the chemical composition of the water, revealing anomalies that defy previous assumptions about Antarctic subglacial environments. This is a world uncharted, unrecorded, untouched, where the normal rules of observation are challenged by the extreme pressures, freezing temperatures, and profound isolation of the abyss. A soft vibration rises through the floor, almost rhythmic, subtle yet impossible to ignore. It harmonizes with the distant hum of the cavern, creating a resonance that feels like communication, or at least acknowledgement, from the continent itself. You pause to place a hand on the ice, feeling its pulse, sensing its deliberate endurance. The abyss is patient, yet insistent, guiding, testing, and revealing in its own time. Every motion, every sound, every drop of water seems amplified, magnified by the scale and emptiness of the chamber. The explorers move in hushed reverence, aware that they are witnessing a world that has existed perfectly silently for millennia, and will continue to do so long after they leave. The descent narrows into a channel barely wide enough for a single person. Cold drafts rise from below, carrying the scent of minerals and subglacial currents. Tiny shards of ice drift in swirling patterns, caught in the lights and giving the impression of suspended stars. The abyss calls forward, deeper and darker, promising discovery and danger in equal measure. Every step feels like crossing a threshold, a boundary between the known and the unknowable, between the fragile human world above and the vast, timeless heart of Antarctica. The narrow channel opens into a wider chamber, a subglacial hall that seems impossibly vast, its walls disappearing into shadows that swallow the strongest beams of light. Here, the ice is dense and polished, carved by invisible currents over millennia. Stalactites hang from the ceiling like frozen daggers, some fused into delicate crystalline lattice that resemble impossible architecture. The air is heavy and damp, carrying a faint metallic tang and the subtle hum of water flowing unseen beneath the ice. Every step echoes, amplified by the cavern's enormity, as if the continent itself is breathing through the walls, reminding you that you are but a temporary visitor in its ancient dominion. Beneath the explorer's feet, Thin layers of ice conceal rivers of water that have flowed uninterrupted for centuries. Occasionally, tiny fissures release bursts of vapor, creating drifting clouds that shimmer in the helmet lights like miniature auroras. The currents below are slow, deliberate, and measured, shaping the cavern in ways invisible from the surface. Each ripple in the water suggests movement, even life, hinting at an ecosystem isolated from sunlight, predation, and the passage of surface time. The water carries minerals, heat, and perhaps microscopic life forms, locked away for millennia, untouched and unobserved. Every measurement taken, every sample collected, is a revelation, a fragment of knowledge that challenges the known limits of life beneath ice. As you move deeper, the vibrations beneath your feet grow stronger, resonating through the solace of boots and up into your chest. It is subtle, almost hypnotic, yet unmistakable, the pulse of the subglacial abyss. Some speculate that it is caused by shifts in the ice above. Others attribute it to the slow, persistent movement of subglacial currents, carving channels far below. But standing in the chamber, with the air vibrating and the water moving silently beneath the frozen surface, it feels alive. The labyrinth of ice is patient, aware, and unyielding, responding in ways the human mind struggles to interpret. You begin to sense that each step, each breath, is observed, acknowledged in ways beyond comprehension. The chamber narrows once more, sloping into a shaft of darkness that leads even deeper. The walls are jagged here, formed by ice and rock pressed together under enormous pressure. Tiny shards glitter faintly in the helmet light, casting fractured reflections that create illusions of motion, of shadows creeping along the walls. Streams of water cut across the floor, some frozen solid in thin layers, others flowing slowly beneath ice sheets. The explorers move with meticulous care, testing each step, each foothold, aware that one misstep could trigger a collapse or a plunge into hidden waters far below. Danger and beauty coexist here, inseparable and undeniable. In the far corner, a fissure releases warmer air, carrying the scent of minerals and the faint, metallic tang of iron. It is a subtle reminder of geothermal forces at work far beneath the continent's frozen crust, driving currents, shaping walls, and creating pockets of life where none should exist. Tiny bubbles rise in suspended water, some luminescent, some clouded with ancient sediments. Observers speculate about microbial ecosystems that have survived here in isolation, evolving without sunlight for thousands of years. The subglacial abyss, silent and patient, preserves these secrets meticulously, revealing them only to those willing to venture into its depths. A faint hum persists, harmonizing with the vibrations of ice and water, creating a rhythm that is almost musical, almost communicative. It threads through the chamber, rising and falling with the slow currents below and the subtle shifts of the ice above. The explorers feel it in their bones, a resonance that guides their movements, heightens awareness, and reinforces the understanding that the abyss is both a space and a presence. It is a world that has existed perfectly, silently, for millennia, indifferent yet responsive, immense yet intimate in its scale. Toward the end of the chamber, the floor slopes sharply downward, leading to a narrow descent into darkness that promises further discovery. Light seems to falter here, as though swallowed by the pressure and density of ice. Every step into the narrowing shaft feels like crossing a threshold, deeper into Antarctica's hidden memory. The pulse beneath your feet strengthens, the hum around you rises, and the water beneath moves with deliberate intent. The subglacial abyss calls forward, a vast, patient, and ancient world waiting to reveal secrets that surface explorers can scarcely imagine. The descent narrows further, forming a vertical chute where ice walls press close, slick and glimmering with hidden moisture. Every movement is deliberate, each footstep sending tiny vibrations through the frozen columns, a soft echo that seems to be absorbed and returned by the cavern. Light from above barely reaches here, and the explorers rely on headlamps to navigate, their beams scattering across walls etched with centuries of geological memory. Patterns emerge in the ice, spirals, fractures, and veins of dark mineral that glint faintly, whispering stories of pressure, heat, and water that have shaped the abyss far longer than humans have walked the earth. A subtle draft rises from below, carrying with it moisture and the faint metallic tang of minerals long trapped beneath layers of ice. Tiny shards swirl in the air, illuminated briefly by passing lights, creating an ethereal ballet that seems suspended in time. The pulse of the cavern grows more pronounced, resonating through the soles of boots, threading through every muscle, bone, and nerve. It is not threatening, but insistent, as if the abyss itself is conscious, aware of each presence, each step taken into its heart. Here, in this narrow shaft, Antarctica asserts its dominance, demanding attention, patience, and respect. The walls curve subtly, leading into a chamber far below, its vastness immediately apparent despite the low light. The ceiling, though impossible to fully see, is adorned with stalactites and thin icicles that hang like frozen veins, some fused into delicate lattice resembling chandeliers. Water drips rhythmically from above, plinking against pools below, each sound magnified and multiplied in echoing layers. The floor is uneven, partially frozen, partially flowing with subglacial streams that weave beneath ice sheets. Tiny bubbles rise from the depths, suspended and frozen in motion, each one a snapshot of time trapped for centuries. Here, the abyss does not simply exist. It breathes, it moves, and it preserves. The explorers pause at the chamber's edge, observing the subtle shifts in ice, the gentle currents in water, the faint hum that rises from unseen depths. Sensors detect anomalies. Temperatures warmer than expected, pressures fluctuating slightly, traces of minerals and gases that suggest geothermal activity, and a complex network of hidden subglacial waterways. These are not static conditions. They pulse, they breathe, they adapt. Every observation is a revelation, a fragment of understanding about a world that thrives in darkness, isolation, and silence. The subglacial abyss is not barren. It is alive in ways that challenge the limits of human perception. A stream flows along one edge, partially frozen, partially liquid, snaking its way into cracks and fissures beyond the light. The water carries sediments, minerals, and perhaps life forms that have evolved over millennia, invisible to the surface. The chamber amplifies the sounds of dripping, of water moving beneath ice, of subtle cracks and shifts in walls that are imperceptible elsewhere. Every echo seems deliberate, as if the cavern is communicating, or at least marking your passage. The abyss reminds you that human intrusion is temporary, a fleeting presence in a system patient beyond imagination. Towards the far end, the chamber narrows again, guiding the explorers into a channel that slopes sharply downwards. The air is colder here, denser, and carries the scent of ancient minerals and frozen water. Tiny ice particles drift lazily in the drafts, catching light and scattering it into ghostly patterns. Every step feels like crossing a threshold deeper into the unknown. The pulse of the abyss grows stronger, harmonizing with the distant hum and the subtle movements of water, as though the continent itself is alive and aware of your descent. As you step into the narrowing channel, leading behind the vast chamber of stalactites, ice pillars, and suspended pools, a profound realization settles. The subglacial abyss is not merely a space of ice and water. It is a living archive, a chronicle of time, pressure, and life, a domain of secrets hidden beneath kilometers of frozen continent. Every vibration, every echo, every reflection reminds you that Antarctica holds within it a world untouched, unobserved, and eternal. And as the explorers move forward, the abyss calls them onward, deeper into its heart, promising revelations yet unseen, mysteries yet unsolved, and the quiet, patient watchfulness of a continent that has endured for millennia. The channel widens slightly, revealing a chamber that feels alive with tension. Shadows twist unnaturally along the walls, cast by headlamps that tremble with every careful step. The ice here is thick, compressed under unimaginable pressure, and streaked with dark mineral veins that shimmer faintly, catching light like trapped stars. The ceiling arches high above, lost in darkness, and is punctuated with delicate stalactites that drip minuscule droplets into pools below. Every sound is magnified. The soft plink of water striking ice, the echo of boots across the frozen floor, the faint groan of the ice shifting imperceptibly. It is a symphony composed over millennia, performed in silence, and the explorers are privileged witnesses. Beneath the frozen surface, hidden streams carve winding paths through the abyss. The water is dark and slow-moving, its depth impossible to gauge from above. Tiny air bubbles rise from the subglacial rivers, suspended in the ice as if time itself had frozen. Some shimmer with faint luminescence, hinting at life forms adapted to eternal darkness. The explorers pause, aware that this is more than a cavern. It is a living ecosystem, a world preserved and sustained in isolation, shaped by geothermal warmth and ice pressure, untouched by the sun or wind above. Every ripple, every subtle vibration in the ice hints at unseen processes, forces operating over centuries in perfect harmony. A faint hum vibrates through the chamber, steady but uneven, threading through walls and floor alike. It resonates in the chest, in the solace of boots, in every nerve, creating a sensation that is difficult to describe. Some call it the heartbeat of the abyss, others the sigh of the continent, a pulse born of movement, pressure, and hidden water currents. There is a quiet intelligence to it, a patient acknowledgement of the explorer's presence, neither hostile nor welcoming, simply aware. The abyss watches, remembers, and waits, revealing its secrets only to those who respect its patience. The explorers navigate carefully along a narrow ridge, the floor sloping sharply into a pool of black, still water. Ice pillars jut up like frozen sentinels, forming natural corridors that twist unpredictably, forcing careful maneuvers. Each step is deliberate. One slip could plunge a person into the icy depths below. Light glances off frozen surfaces, refracted into spectral colors that flicker and fade, giving the illusion of movement where there is none. The cavern is vast, yet precise. Every curve and arch formed over millennia with relentless, meticulous patience. It is a testament to the quiet artistry of natural forces, shaping a world hidden far beneath the surface. Towards the far end of the chamber, a warm draft rises faintly from below, carrying the scent of minerals and dissolved gases. The pulse beneath the ice intensifies, harmonizing with the hum, as if guiding the explorers deeper into the labyrinth. Tiny currents of water shift beneath partially frozen surfaces, reflecting shards of ice at impossible angles, creating illusions of floating lights and phantom forms. Each illusion teases the mind, blending the real and the imagined, testing perception, and emphasizing the enormity of what lies beneath the frozen continent. A narrow descent leads further downward, the walls now pressed close, ice-dense and unyielding. Here, even light struggles to penetrate. Shadows dominate, stretching and twisting as if alive. The hum grows louder, the vibrations beneath feet more pronounced, and the air feels charged with the weight of centuries. Every sense is heightened, every movement deliberate, as the explorers edge closer to the core of the subglacial abyss. Here, the silence is almost deafening, broken only by the occasional drip of water, the subtle groan of shifting ice, and the unrelenting pulse that seems to echo through the bones. And as the explorers step into the descending shaft, leaving the cavern behind, a profound realization takes hold. The subglacial abyss is not merely a frozen network of tunnels and water channels. It is a living archive, a chronicle of Earth's hidden past, a domain where ice, pressure, water, and time converge in perfect, patient harmony. Every vibration, every shadow, every droplet hints at secrets preserved for millennia, waiting to reveal themselves to those daring enough to follow the abyss to its deepest reaches. The final descent into the subglacial abyss opens into a cavern so immense that the explorer's lights seem mere sparks against the darkness. The ceiling stretches into shadows that appear infinite, while the walls glimmer faintly with embedded minerals and frozen veins of water. Columns of ice rise like monolithic sentinels, jagged yet elegant, some fused into crystalline towers that reflect and scatter light into ghostly patterns across the cavern floor. Tiny fissures release clouds of frost that drift lazily, illuminated briefly by the headlamps, creating halos of light that seem almost supernatural. Every sound is amplified and refracted, a soft symphony of dripping water, shifting ice, and the faint hum of subglacial currents below. Beneath the explorers, rivers of liquid water flow silently beneath thin sheets of ice, tracing winding paths through the abyss. Some surfaces are frozen smooth. Others ripple gently under unseen currents. Tiny air pockets rise slowly, suspended in ice or water, capturing the essence of a frozen world untouched by time. Each bubble, each ripple, is a fragment of a hidden ecosystem, a trace of life that has endured in isolation for millennia. Here, in the heart of the abyss, the very earth seems to record its own history, preserving it in ice, water, and pressure, awaiting those patient enough to witness it. A faint warmth rises from deep within, carried upward by hidden geothermal activity. The pulse beneath the feet intensifies, synchronized with the subtle vibrations echoing through the walls, as if the continent itself is aware of the explorer's presence. Every step forward feels like crossing a threshold into the primeval, where the passage of time is incomprehensible and the forces shaping the ice are monumental. The subglacial abyss is not static. It is alive with movement, with currents, with the slow, deliberate rhythm of geological memory. The explorers pause at the edge of a deep pool, its surface mirror black and impossibly still. Light flickers across it, revealing faint shadows beneath, suggesting movement in the hidden currents. The water is unnervingly calm yet alive, carrying sediment, minerals, and possibly life forms that have never been seen by human eyes. Every ripple and reflection is a clue, a piece of the story this hidden world has been telling for millennia. The cavern seems to breathe around them, exhaling clouds of frost and subtle currents of air, amplifying the sensation of being inside a living organism, immense and patient, shaped over eons. Above, stalactites form frozen canopies that glint in the scattered light. Columns of ice rise from the floor, fractured yet perfectly preserved, creating natural corridors that twist and spiral in patterns almost architectural in precision. The explorers' voices are hushed, acknowledging the overwhelming beauty and fragility of the abyss. Here, caution is not merely prudence. It is reverence. One misstep could disrupt centuries of delicate formations. And yet, moving forward is irresistible, driven by the compulsion to witness the hidden heart of Antarctica, to trace the contours of a world that exists beyond human comprehension. Towards the far edge of the chamber, a narrow crevice hints at further passage. Cold drafts rise, carrying moisture and the faint tang of minerals. The pulse of the abyss grows stronger, harmonizing with the distant hum and the subtle vibrations from below. The explorers step carefully into the crevice, aware that they are entering a zone of absolute isolation, where the ice, the water, and the hidden currents converge in perfect, patient balance. Every step feels monumental, a crossing into the deepest, most secretive layers of the continent's frozen memory. And as the descent continues, the explorers understand the truth of the subglacial abyss. It is not merely a cavern beneath ice. It is a living archive, a chronicle of Earth's history preserved in frozen silence, a domain of water, ice, and pressure that has endured for millennia. Every vibration, every echo, every glimmer of light carries the weight of time, the patience of the continent, and the secrets of a world untouched by human hands. To witness it is to glimpse eternity beneath the frozen continent, to follow the pulse of Antarctica into its deepest, most hidden heart. Emerging from the subglacial abyss, the explorers enter a realm where ice is no longer merely solid, but layered, folded, and fractured into forms that suggest hidden histories written across millennia. The walls shimmer with bluish hues, veined with streaks of black mineral, each line telling the story of slow compression, heat, and pressure beneath the continent. Light refracts and scatters in infinite directions, transforming every crack into a prism, every fissure into a spectacle of ghostly brilliance. Silence dominates, yet it is not empty. It vibrates with the memory of water currents, shifting ice, and geothermal pulses that have labored beneath Antarctica's frozen surface for eons. Here, the ice feels ancient, conscious in its stillness, preserving within it secrets that no human eye has seen. Tiny particles of sediment lie suspended in clear layers, fossilized whispers of forgotten climates and vanished landscapes. The explorers pause, brushing their hands across walls that feel both solid and liquid, listening to the faint hum of hidden water carving secret channels below. Even the slightest sound, a footstep, a breath, the soft clink of equipment, reverberates endlessly, as though the ice itself acknowledges their presence. Every movement feels deliberate, a negotiation with a world that has endured silently, patiently, long before humans arrived. The passage twists suddenly, opening onto a chamber where the ice shelves overhang like frozen cliffs. Shadows loom impossibly high, while rivulets of meltwater descend in thin, glimmering streams, dissolving into pools below. The faint smell of minerals and wet ice permeates the air, mingling with the metallic tang of ancient sediments carried from deep within the continent. Each reflection, each pattern of light, transforms the chamber into a cathedral of frozen memory, where the passage of time is written in the layers of ice, the angles of fractures, and the slow, patient curves of walls that have endured millennia. Beneath the surface, hidden currents whisper in silence, flowing through channels and fissures that defy direct observation. The water moves with a deliberate rhythm, carving the ice as it travels, shaping the labyrinth in ways imperceptible from above. Tiny bubbles rise slowly through the layers, frozen mid-ascent, preserving traces of life and air pockets trapped from an age-long past. The explorers shine lights across these bubbles, noting microscopic imperfections, streaks of sediment, and subtle hints of microorganisms surviving in isolation. Each discovery hints at a world hidden from the sun, yet teeming with life, activity, and the patient persistence of natural forces. The chamber narrows, leading into a corridor of jagged ice that twists and spirals downward. Here, the temperature drops further, the air crisp and brittle, each inhalation producing a fine cloud of frost. Tiny shards swirl in drafts, reflecting light in spectral flashes that create illusions of movement along the walls. The pulse of the ice beneath feet grows perceptible, subtle but undeniable, a rhythm in harmony with distant subglacial rivers and hidden geothermal sources. It is as though the continent itself is guiding them forward, marking the path toward deeper, older secrets, demanding attention, respect, and patience. Toward the far end of the corridor, explorers notice faint etchings in the ice, natural formations that resemble hieroglyphs, patterns, or perhaps fossils frozen within crystalline walls. Their origins are unclear: erosion, pressure, or remnants of ancient life. The air here is warmer, carrying whispers of geothermal influence and hints of water flowing below. Every step closer to the heart of this icebound world increases awareness of its age, fragility, and complexity. The ice is not inert. It is patient, observant, and alive in its own silent way, preserving secrets of climates, life, and geological events that surface dwellers could never imagine. The explorers move with reverence, acutely aware that they are witnessing something eternal, a living archive of the planet's past. The silence, the reflections, the vibrations beneath their feet, and the flowing subglacial currents all combine into a palpable presence. Antarctica revealing its secrets, one measured heartbeat at a time. Every corridor, every chamber, every crystal-glazed wall reinforces the realization that this is not merely a frozen wilderness. It is a chronicle of millennia, hidden beneath layers of ice, waiting for those patient enough to uncover it. The corridor opens into a cavern of impossible scale, where ice forms jagged cliffs and delicate spires, their tips glinting like frozen flames. Shadows stretch and twist in strange directions, cast by the flickering headlamps of the explorers, creating the illusion of movement where there is none. The air is dense and crisp, carrying the faint scent of minerals and the sharp cold of centuries of unbroken frost. Every sound, a breath, a footstep, a drip from the ceiling, reverberates endlessly, magnified and transformed by the cavern's enormous dimensions. It is a cathedral of ice, where the silence is profound, yet humming with the subtle pulse of hidden currents beneath the frozen surface. Beneath the explorers, thin sheets of ice conceal turbulent water channels that snake through the cavern like veins of liquid darkness. The currents are slow and deliberate, carving paths through the ice, shaping the hidden landscape in ways imperceptible from above. Tiny air bubbles rise, frozen mid-ascent, encapsulating minuscule fragments of minerals and sediments. Each bubble is a snapshot of time, a frozen memory from a world untouched by sunlight or human presence. The explorers peer closely, aware that within these microcosms may lie traces of life isolated for millennia, evolving in darkness, far from the reach of the surface world. Columns of ice rise from the floor, some fused into delicate lattice that refract the explorers' lights in spectral bursts. Stalactites hang like icicle daggers from the ceiling, dripping slowly into shallow pools below, each droplet magnified into a tiny, resonant echo. The cavern seems to breathe, its pulse harmonizing with subtle vibrations underfoot, the distant hum of subglacial rivers, and the imperceptible movement of geothermal currents deep below. There is a rhythm here, deliberate and ancient, that guides the explorers through the labyrinthine chambers with a sense of inevitability, as though the ice itself understands the path forward. Toward the far wall, a fissure releases warmer air, tinged with the faint metallic scent of minerals from deep beneath the continent's frozen crust. Tiny shards of ice drift in gentle currents, catching the light and scattering it into fleeting patterns that mimic distant stars. The explorers pause, noticing subtle textures etched into the ice, layers that resemble fossilized impressions of plants, or perhaps even the long-forgotten remnants of creatures buried beneath the frozen surface. It is impossible to tell at first glance, yet every detail speaks of history preserved in perfect silence, waiting for discovery. The chamber narrows into a spiraling descent, walls twisting and curving with unnatural elegance. Each step downward is cautious, measured, deliberate. The ice is patient, yet unpredictable. Hidden pools of water lie beneath thin, fragile surfaces, their depths unknowable, their currents shaping the labyrinth invisibly. The explorers move in hushed reverence, aware that one misstep could alter formations that have existed undisturbed for millennia. And yet, the allure of discovery drives them forward, deeper into a world untouched by human hands, where every reflection, every shadow, and every vibration hints at secrets buried in frozen time. As they descend further, faint hums of subglacial rivers grow more pronounced, harmonizing with the vibrations of ice and the subtle currents of air. The explorers feel it in their bones, the pulse of the continent, patient and immense, acknowledging their presence yet indifferent to their intentions. Every chamber, Every twist of the tunnel, every glimmering vein of ice reinforces the understanding that this is no mere cavern. It is a living archive, a repository of Earth's hidden history, a place where geological, climatic, and possibly biological secrets converge in silent, patient equilibrium. And as the explorers step into the deepest portion of the descent, they realize that Antarctica is revealing itself not through spectacle alone, but through preservation, a slow unveiling of its icebound secrets, layer by layer, chamber by chamber. Every subtle vibration, every whisper of air, every frozen droplet is part of a narrative written over millennia, awaiting those willing to move with patience, reverence, and awe. In this frozen cathedral, the past persists with an almost sentient awareness, and the explorers, tiny and fragile against the continent's immensity, are witnesses to a world that time has forgotten, yet preserved in perfect, crystalline memory. The descent finally levels into a broad subglacial chamber, where ice forms vast terraces and shelves, each layer revealing centuries of compression, melt, and refreezing. The walls are streaked with veins of dark minerals, twisting through the ice like frozen rivers, catching the explorers' lights and scattering them into ghostly reflections across the floor. Every surface seems to shimmer with subtle motion, as if the ice itself breathes, absorbing vibrations and releasing them in echoes that reverberate through the cavern. The air is heavy and crisp, carrying the faint scent of minerals, the cold tang of ancient frost, and a subtle dampness from unseen subglacial streams. Silence dominates, yet it hums with the invisible life of the continent. Hidden rivers, geothermal pulses, and the slow, persistent movements of ice under immense pressure. Beneath the explorers, sheets of ice give way to channels of dark water, moving silently in patterns invisible from above. The currents twist and curl, sculpting the cavern floor in ways imperceptible to the eye, shaping hidden valleys and ridges over centuries. Tiny bubbles rise slowly from these subglacial rivers, some containing traces of microscopic life, others capturing the faint sediment of ancient eras. Each bubble is a frozen fragment of time, a reminder that life, in its most hidden forms, can persist where sunlight never penetrates. The explorers shine their lights across these bubbles, fascinated by the minute glimmers, each a tiny universe suspended in ice. Columns of ice rise dramatically from the floor, some fused into elegant lattice that create natural corridors through the cavern. Stalactites hang overhead, fragile and perfect, dripping slowly into shallow pools below, each droplet forming a quiet symphony that echoes endlessly. Every sound seems amplified, as though the ice itself is listening, acknowledging, and responding. The explorers are acutely aware that they are temporary intruders in a domain that has existed for millennia, a world shaped by forces far older and more powerful than themselves. Their presence is fleeting, yet it is also a silent agreement with the continent, a mutual recognition of patience, reverence, and awe. In the far corner of the chamber, a fissure in the ice releases a faint, warmer breeze, carrying with it the scent of minerals and the hint of water flowing deep below. Tiny shards of ice drift lazily in the air, catching light and scattering it into fleeting prismatic patterns, giving the impression of stars suspended in a frozen void. The explorers notice subtle patterns etched into the walls, spirals, lines, and impressions that resemble fossilized flora or perhaps remnants of creatures long extinct. Their origins remain uncertain, yet each formation hints at the history preserved in these frozen depths. The chamber is not merely a physical space. It is a chronicle, recording millennia of climate, life, and geological processes in ice, water, and stone. The path narrows into a spiraling descent, walls curving around like natural stairways of frozen crystal. Here, the temperature drops further, the air biting and brittle, each breath producing clouds of frost that drift into the cavern like ghostly apparitions. Vibrations beneath the explorers' feet grow stronger, harmonizing with the distant hum of subglacial rivers and the subtle movement of geothermal currents. Each step downward feels monumental, a crossing into the hidden core of Antarctica, where the planet's memory is preserved with patient precision. The ice is not inert. It is alive, observant, and immutable, shaping every corridor, every shelf, and every hidden stream with deliberate care. Towards the chamber's far end, a shallow pool reflects the explorer's lights in distorted patterns, revealing faint shadows beneath the surface. The water moves with imperceptible currents, carrying sediments, minerals, and possibly microscopic life forms that have existed in total isolation. The explorers peer into its depths, sensing the profound stillness and the silent complexity of a system preserved for millennia. Here, the icebound secrets of Antarctica converge. Frozen terraces, flowing subglacial rivers, hidden life, and the patient recording of time itself. Every vibration, every reflection, every subtle hum reinforces the understanding that this continent is not merely frozen wilderness. It is a living archive, eternal, immense, and silent. And as the explorers prepare to continue into the narrowing corridors beyond, they realize that every layer of ice, every hidden stream, and every frozen formation is a chapter of a story written over millennia. To witness it is to glimpse eternity itself, to stand in the presence of forces beyond human comprehension, and to follow the patient rhythm of a continent that has endured long before humanity and will endure long after. Antarctica's icebound secrets reveal themselves slowly, carefully, and only to those who approach with reverence, patience, and awe. The corridor twists once more, narrowing as the explorers advance, flanked by walls of ice that gleam faintly under their lights. The atmosphere grows heavier, charged with the quiet energy of trapped air, flowing water, and frozen pressure. Every step sends echoes cascading across the chamber, amplifying the sound of their boots against the ice into a subtle symphony of human presence intruding upon a timeless landscape. Shadows twist along the walls in unpredictable patterns, as if the ice itself were alive, observing, acknowledging the explorer's careful intrusion into its hidden depths. The air grows colder and sharper as they descend, each inhalation creating a visible cloud that mingles with drifting shards of ice suspended in the currents. Beneath the frozen surface, hidden subglacial streams move slowly, carving unseen channels that have existed for centuries, perhaps millennia. The faint vibrations underfoot suggest unseen forces at work, geothermal warmth feeding currents, ice slowly shifting under immense continental pressure, and hidden pools awaiting discovery. Every ripple, every subtle sound is magnified in this vast, silent chamber, heightening the explorers' awareness and their sense of being temporary witnesses to a world far older than themselves. The walls, sculpted over millennia, reveal patterns that hint at ancient forces at work. Layers of ice show repeated compression and thaw cycles, while veins of dark minerals twist through the frozen expanse like veins of hidden memory. Occasionally, delicate stalactites drip into small pools below, each droplet echoing endlessly and merging into the faint hum of the cavern. The explorers notice subtle variations in color and texture, hints of trapped air, frozen particles of sediment, and possibly microscopic life forms that have survived in complete isolation. These patterns tell a story far beyond human lifetimes, a chronicle written in ice, water, and pressure, patiently preserved in Antarctica's hidden heart. Toward the center of the chamber, the ice rises in towering spires, some fused into intricate lattice that refract light into ghostly rainbows. The explorers move carefully among them, mindful that one misstep could disrupt formations that have taken millennia to form. The pulse of the ice beneath their feet grows perceptible, almost rhythmic, harmonizing with the distant hum of water flowing through unseen channels. It is as if the continent itself is alive, patient, and immense, guiding the explorers forward, whispering its history through vibrations, reflections, and the subtle patterns etched into the ice. A narrow fissure opens to the side, releasing a faint warmth and the scent of minerals from deep beneath the continent. Tiny shards of ice drift in the currents, catching the explorer's lights and scattering it into spectral glimmers that dance across walls and ceiling. Here, in the quiet of the abyss, every detail becomes profound. A frozen droplet, a shimmering bubble, a subtle shadow, each a piece of the continent's narrative preserved in perfect silence. The explorers pause, sensing that even the smallest observation is a revelation, a fragment of a hidden history that spans eons. The chamber slopes downward gently, guiding the explorers toward a final section of the icebound labyrinth. Here, the darkness thickens, absorbing light and sound alike, leaving only the faint hum of subglacial currents and the rhythmic pulse of the ice beneath their feet. The explorers feel the weight of millennia pressing around them, a tangible sense of the continent's immense patience and the careful preservation of its secrets. Every step is deliberate, every breath mindful, as they move deeper into a realm untouched by time and human presence. And as they advance, the explorers understand that the icebound secrets of Antarctica are not merely geological formations or frozen curiosities. They are a living archive, a chronicle of time, climate, life, and immense natural forces preserved in crystalline perfection. Each chamber, each frozen spire, each hidden current speaks to a patience beyond human comprehension, a persistence that has endured far longer than any civilization, any record, any memory. In this frozen cathedral, the explorers are witnesses to eternity, following the silent rhythm of a continent that has endured millennia, holding its secrets with meticulous care, waiting for the patient, reverent, and observant to uncover them. Ahead, a cluster of jagged ice spires pierces the horizon, rising from the snow like monumental sculptures carved by wind, pressure, and time. The explorers navigate through narrow corridors formed by these formations, each step echoing in the vast expanse. Shadows twist and lengthen, creating illusions of movement where none exists, a reminder that this frozen world is as much an optical symphony as it is a geological record. The ice refracts their lights into spectral patterns that dance across walls, ceilings, and floors, revealing layers upon layers of history preserved in crystal. Every detail, from the tiniest fracture to the largest fissure, tells a story millions of years in the making. The wind shifts, carrying the scent of mineral-rich water from hidden geothermal vents below. Tiny streams of meltwater carve shallow channels across the ice, their faint trickle amplified in the cavernous silence. The explorers pause, listening to the faint rhythm of the continent itself, the movement of ice, the pulse of subglacial currents, the whisper of wind across frozen ridges. It is a rhythm measured in millennia, patient and deliberate, shaping the landscape slowly and invisibly. Each step across the plateau is both an observation and a meditation, a recognition of the continent's vast, enduring power. In a hollow between spires, a small pool of perfectly still water reflects the surrounding ice with haunting clarity. Beneath its dark, glassy surface, currents swirl invisibly, carrying sediments, minerals, and perhaps traces of life preserved in total isolation. The explorers shine lights across the pool, seeing ghostly shapes and shimmering reflections that hint at the hidden activity below. It is a reminder that Antarctica's frozen legacy is not static. It is dynamic, patient, and deliberate, recording the passage of time and the quiet persistence of hidden ecosystems. Each detail, however small, carries significance, revealing the continent's secrets to those who observe carefully. As the explorers progress toward the plateau's edge, they notice a subtle shift in the ice, cracks, folds, and compressed layers that suggest millennia of slow pressure and movement. The patterns tell a story of epochs, climate shifts, and the gradual flow of glaciers carving paths through the continent. Every fracture, every layer, Every reflective surface is a piece of Antarctica's frozen memory, meticulously preserved in crystalline perfection. The explorers step lightly, aware of their role as witnesses to a world both immense and delicate, fragile yet eternal. And as the sun dips low, casting long shadows across the frozen expanse, the explorers grasp the immensity of the frozen legacy. Antarctica is not merely ice, snow, and rock. It is a living archive, a chronicle of Earth's history, a repository of life, climate, and geological forces preserved over millennia. Every ripple of water, every shimmer of ice, every hidden current carries a fragment of the past, awaiting those patient and reverent enough to witness it. In this eternal expanse, the frozen legacy endures, silent, vast, and magnificent, offering glimpses of eternity to those who walk with awe. At the edge of the plateau, the explorers pause, gazing over an endless expanse of ice and snow that stretches to the horizon, a world untouched and unbroken. The light of the fading sun glints across frozen ridges, casting shadows that deepen the sense of scale and silence. Each jagged peak, each crevice, and each spire of crystalline ice feels both ancient and alive, a testament to forces beyond human comprehension. In the stillness, the explorers sense the immensity of Antarctica's frozen legacy, a continent preserving memory, life, and time itself in its patient, crystalline layers. Beneath the surface, hidden rivers continue their slow, deliberate journey, carving channels, shaping valleys, and nurturing ecosystems isolated from the sun for millennia. Tiny air bubbles, fossils, and sediments remain suspended in ice, snapshots of ancient eras preserved in perfect stasis. The explorers observe quietly, understanding that each fragment is a story, each frozen particle a chapter in a narrative older than any human civilization. Antarctica is both archive and guardian, revealing only what it chooses, measured and deliberate, holding its secrets with patient authority. The wind rises, sweeping across the plateau and carrying hints of minerals from deep geothermal vents hidden below. Snowdrifts swirl like ghostly phantoms, refracting the explorers' lights into fleeting rainbows, as if the land itself were displaying its hidden artistry. Shadows stretch across jagged cliffs, creating illusions of movement that blend with the rhythmic pulse of subglacial currents. The frozen legacy is alive in these subtle interactions, in wind, ice, water, and reflection, a testament to the patient forces shaping the continent over millennia. In the distance, towering ice formations resemble cathedrals, their spires reaching toward the pale sky. Pools of meltwater reflect these frozen monuments, revealing the fragile yet enduring beauty of the landscape. Each reflection, each shimmer, each subtle vibration underfoot is a reminder that the continent's history is ongoing, recorded in layers of ice, traces of life, and slow-moving currents. The explorers move carefully, aware that they are temporary participants in a story that began millions of years before them and will continue long after they leave. The explorers descend gently toward a hidden valley, where ancient ice formations conceal the entrances to subglacial caves and streams. The air grows denser here, tinged with the faint metallic scent of minerals and the crisp tang of ice. Tiny crystals shimmer in the shadows, glinting like stars against the darkened snow. Each step forward is a meditation, a deliberate act of observation, a humble acknowledgement of the immense forces preserving this frozen world. The frozen legacy is not static. It is dynamic, patient, and deliberate, quietly maintaining its balance while recording the passage of time in forms both grand and microscopic. As night falls, the explorers stand together, enveloped by silence and the glow of ice reflecting starlight. The frozen expanse stretches endlessly, a world of patient endurance and eternal beauty. Antarctica is more than a continent. It is a living archive, a chronicle of Earth's climate, geology, and life, meticulously preserved in crystal, snow, and hidden currents. Every fissure, every bubble, every ripple in the subglacial river is a page in this timeless narrative. The explorers feel the weight of history, the vastness of time, and the fragility of human presence in the face of such immensity. And in that silence, they understand the profound truth. Antarctica's frozen legacy endures beyond human memory, a patient, eternal archive holding the secrets of Earth itself. Every hidden river, every ice-covered cavern, every subtle vibration beneath the frozen plains is a story waiting to be witnessed. The explorers leave, carrying with them only glimpses, impressions, and reverence, knowing that this continent, in all its silent majesty, will continue its patient, meticulous preservation, eternal, unseen, and magnificent.